The Lord, He promised me a home, a land of milk and honey bright, where the sun is always shining and there's no more lonely night. I can see it from a distance, across the river wide and deep, and the promise of that land is a promise I will keep. But right now I'm in the wilderness, where the lonely shadows creep. This side of the Jordan River, the ground is hard and dry. The serpents of temptation are always slithering by. The bread of heaven falls, but sometimes it tastes like sand. And I'm just a weary pilgrim in a strange and barren land, trying to follow the pillar of fire with a tired and trembling hand. Oh, this side of the Jordan, the blues, they fall like rain. You fight the same old battles again and again, but I'm walking toward the water and I'm holding to His hand, and I'll cross that rolling river into the promised land. Sometimes I get discouraged and I sit right down and cry. I see the giants in the land, and I'm a grasshopper in my eye. I remember the chains of Egypt, and for a moment I feel weak. But then I hear the shepherd's voice, so gentle and so meek. I am with you in this desert. All the precious words He'll speak. So I'll keep on walking forward with my face set toward the shore. I know this weary wilderness ain't what I'm destined for. My home is over yonder, where all my trials cease, where I'll lay down my heavy burden and live in perfect peace. Until then I'll sing my blues, till He grants my soul release. Always shifting like the desert sands of time. The road I walked yesterday is a hill I cannot climb. The signposts all get twisted by the winds of change and doubt, And the truths I thought were solid are the ones I'm cast without. Just a lost and weary traveler, trying to find my way out. They built a brand new highway, paved with pleasure and with pride. Said forget that old dirt pathway, come on and take a ride. But that road, it leads to nowhere, just a cliff into the grave. And I found myself more lost than I was on yesterday. Just a soul in need of something that won't ever fade away. Is a truth that stands forever in these changing, faithless grooves. While the world is building new roads that will crumble into dust, the old landmark of the cross is the only one I trust. They held on to that old landmark at the closing of the day. It's a rugged, narrow pathway, and it ain't an easy stroll, but it's the only road that leads you to the saving of your soul. And it's anchored in a story that'll make a spirit whole. Keep changing, let it build its towers tall. I'll plant my feet on a solid rock, the one who will never fall. I don't need a fancy road map or a sign that's shining new. The old landmark of salvation is the grace that sees me through. On that path I'll walk. The garden of my spirit was a sad and sorry sight, overgrown with weeds of anger that choked out all the light. The thorns of my resentment had grown up sharp and tall, and the soul of my heart was hardened, waiting for the fall. a tangled mess of sorrow behind a crumbling wall. I tried to do the writing with my own two prideful hands, but for every weed I pulled, another took its stand. The roots of sin ran deeper than I could ever see. I was just a clumsy gardener who couldn't set his own ground free, just a keeper of a wasteland for all the world to see. But the gardener's hands are scarred from a nail and from a tree, and he came into my wasteland to do the work for me. He doesn't mind the thorns and weeds, he's not afraid of dirt. The gardener of my soul is healing all my hurt. And he started pulling roots. The bitterness I'd held so long in its misshapen fruits, it hurt to feel them coming out. They were a part of me, you know, but he was making room for something beautiful to grow, planting seeds of mercy in a long and patient road. My garden isn't perfect, but it's living and it's green. The tender shoots of hope on are the prettiest I've seen. And every morning the gardener comes to walk and tend the ground, and the fragrance of his presence is the sweetest to be found. And in the garden of his grace, my healing can abound. I try to make myself look good for the coming judgment day. I patch together all my works in my own clumsy way. I had a piece of charity, a a sleeve of being polite, a caller made of promises that I'd try to do what's right, but my righteousness was filthy in the Lord's most holy light. I stood there in my garment, this robe of my own thread, but it was full of holes and stains of the selfish life I'd led. It was a second-hand religion. It was tattered and it was torn. It couldn't cover up the shame of the day that I was born. Just a beggar in a king's court, feeling weary and forlorn. This second-hand robe I'm wearing just won't get me through the gate. It's a garment made of trying, and it's always been too late. But the King is offering a new one, a robe of purest white, washed in the blood of Jesus, and it fits me just right. Oh, he looked at my pathetic rags, and he didn't laugh or frown. He just held out a perfect garment, a heavenly dressing gown. He said, take off your own work, son. They're useless here and thin. And wear this robe of my own making that will cover all your sins. It was woven on a cross where your new life can begin. So I dropped my ragged clothing, my second-hand piety, and he dressed me in a robe that was bought and paid for me. It doesn't have a single stain, it doesn't have a tear. And when I'm wearing this new garment, I'm free from all my fear. And I wear it to the wedding feast when the bridegroom shall appear. My soul was sick and weary, with a fever deep inside, an emptiness and aching that I couldn't seem to hide. So I went to see the doctors of this modern broken world, and they listened to my story as my tragedy unfurled, and they offered me their medicine as their wisdom they uncurled. The first one wrote a script for money, said a little wealth will do. The next one wrote a script for pleasure, go and find somebody new. Another prescribed a dose of fame, and a bottle of ambition. I took all their medicine with a blind and foolish submission, but my soul just got sicker in its terminal condition. 'Cause you can't cure a sick soul with a wrong prescription plan. The sickness that I have is a fallen state of man. There's only one great physician who knows my every ill, and he wrote my prescription with a cross upon a hill. When all the quacks had failed me and I was about to die, I heard about a doctor who didn't charge a fee, so I tried. I crawled into his office and I told him all my pain. He didn't check my temperature or the blood in my vein. He just looked into my heart, and he called me by my name. He wrote a script for grace to be taken every day, and a dose of mercy that would wash my sins away. The medicine was his own blood, the treatment was his love, and he filled my prescription from his pharmacy above. And now my soul is healing like a peaceful homing dove. I was born a wanted man, a fugitive from the law, running from the holy statutes and every single flaw. My face was on a poster in the courtroom of the sky, wanted for the crime of living a self-centered lie, always looking over my shoulder, waiting for the day I die. I hid out in the canyons of my own defiant pride, thought the Lord would never find me deep down where I could hide. But the sheriff of my conscience was always on my trail. His dogs of guilt were howling a long and lonely way, and I knew my life on the run was a story bound to fail. 'Cause you can't outrun the lawman who owns the earth and sky. There ain't no place to hide from him, no matter how you try. But the fugitive's blues and sweetly when you finally understand. The sheriff's not there to judge you, his hand. So I stopped my foolish running, and I fell down on my knees. I said, Sheriff, I surrender. Do with me as you please. I was waiting for the handcuffs in the long, cold prison cell, but he looked at me with mercy, and he broke the sinner's spell. He said, the governor's son paid your bail when he went through hell. Now I'm not a fugitive, I'm a deputy of the king. I walk the straight and narrow, and a joyful song I sing. The poster's been taken down, my record's been wiped clean by the amnesty of the cross, the greatest grace I've seen. And I'm walking in the light now, where I've never ever been. I was walking through the valley of the shadow of my death. The air was cold and heavy, and I couldn't catch my breath. The rocks around were jagged, the path was filled with dread, and I was all alone with the voices in my head, wishing I could turn back to my warm and safe bed. So I cried out to the darkness, I shouted out my pain. Is there anybody out there in this cold and bitter rain? And I waited for the echo of my own and lonely sound to bounce right back and tell me that no comfort could be found, just the echo of my sorrow on this dark and holy ground. But the echo in the valley wasn't my voice coming back. It was the voice of the Good Shepherd on a sure and steady track. I cried out, I am lost, and the echo said, I am here. The echo of his presence that casts out every fear. I shouted, I am frightened. My voice was cracked and thin, and the echo came back, fear not, for I have conquered sin. I whispered, I am dying, and I fell down to the floor, and the echo said, I am the life, and you live forevermore. It was a conversation of grace that my soul had longed for. So now I walk the valley, and I do not walk in fright, because the echo that surrounds me is a holy guiding light. It's the voice of my companion who has promised to be near, and the echo in the valley is the sweetest sound I hear. The shepherd's voice that guides me home and holds me ever dear. I had a letter in my heart that I could never send, addressed to God in heaven, my accuser and my friend. It was full of all the questions and the things I couldn't say. The ink was made of teardrops at the closing of the day. A letter full of shame that I just locked away. The first line was, I'm sorry for the man I'd failed to be. The next was, I am angry at the world for hurting me. Another was, I'm frightened that you've forgotten my name. A confession and a protest, a story of my blame. A letter I could never mail for fear of what would came. But the prayers you cannot speak and the letters you don't send are read by God the Father, who knows your journey's end. He doesn't need your postage, he doesn't need your prose. He reads the language of your soul, and his love and mercy flows. And one night in the silence, when the pain was at its worst, I felt a gentle answer for my soul that was so cursed. It wasn't made of thunder or a vision in the sky. It was a quiet understanding, a tear in my own eye, a feeling that my letter had been received on high. He answered every question with a peace I can't explain. He answered every sorrow by taking on the pain. I never had to mail it, that letter of despair. 'cause the Spirit is the postman who delivers every prayer, and the unsent letter of my heart was handled with his care. I was a fig tree by the roadside, with my leaves of green and pride. I looked so strong and healthy to everyone who passed beside. People saw my branches and they thought my fruit was sweet, but I was just for show in the dusty midday heat. A tree of empty promises, of bitter sad deceit. I stood there in my glory, looking righteous, looking grand, the most impressive fig tree in all the Holy Land. But when the Master came a-walking, hungry for a simple bite, he looked beneath my pretty leaves in the clear and morning light, and he found my branches empty in his pure and holy sight. He said, may no fruit ever grow on this faithless tree again. And I fell to wither in my roots, a deep and dying pain. My leaves began to curl and brown, my branches start to break. I was cursed for being fruitless, for my own and foolish sake. A lesson for the ages that the Lord himself did make. Oh, the blues of the barren tree is a song of deep regret for a life of empty worship that the Master hasn't met. Lord, don't let me be just leaves, a religious masquerade. Make me fruitful by your Spirit, a tree that's not afraid. So I cried out to the Master from my dry and cursed ground. Lord, I am that barren fig tree that in my own life is found. Don't curse me for my emptiness, but prune me with your hand and make me bear the fruit of grace across this weary land. Let my life bring you some glory by your mercy and command. The devil is a rider of a dark and twisted book, and he wants to write my story with a sad and lonely look. He writes a chapter of failure and a chapter of my sin. He writes of all the battles that I was too weak to win. A biography of sorrow from the day I did begin. He keeps trying to write the ending with his ink of dark despair. A final page of judgment in his cold and smoky lair. He wants the last word to be guilty, the last line to be the end. A story of a broken soul that nobody could mend. A book to put upon a shelf that no one would recommend. But God is the true author, and he holds the final pen. He can take your tragic story and make it live again. And no matter what the devil writes, in his fury and his rage, the author of all creation is the one who writes the final page. He doesn't erase the chapters of my sorrow and my shame. He uses them to show the world the power of his name. Where the devil wrote a period, yeah, God puts a comma there and starts a whole new chapter with a love beyond compare. A chapter of redemption, a chapter free from care. So I don't fear the ending or how my story is gonna close, 'cause the author's already written it in poetry and prose. The final page is not about me, it's about his victory. He wrote the happy ending for all the world to see, and his name is on the cover for all eternity.